Welcome to episode 119 of the Left Behind Game Club. This week, we play Donut County. You can follow all things Left Behind Game Club at leftbehindgame.club, on Twitter at leftbehindclub, and on Instagram at leftbehindgameclub. If you enjoyed the show, send it to a friend and review us on your podcasting platform of choice. Without further ado, let's get right into it.
You're listening to the Left Behind Game Club.
Welcome to the Left Behind Game Club, our never-ending attempt to make sure that no game is left behind. I'm your host, Jacob McCourt, and today I have two friends with me. The first friend, you know him, you love him. His name is Michael Ruffalo.
I'm excited to talk about the holiest game I've ever played.
And here to talk about the holiest game we've probably ever played is our special guest, Wesley LeBlanc. He is a freelance writer for IGN. Welcome to the show. Woo!
Hello. I'm very excited to talk about all these holes. It's going to be a good time.
There are so many holes.
The most holes.
The most holes.
We're going to get into some inappropriate spaces if we don't pivot quickly.
Well, let me pivot away. And obviously, some folks might have holes in their knowledge about you. So why don't you share with our audience what you do and what you're all about?
So basically, I'm a freelance writer. I mean, I have a day job and stuff. I'm a reporter in my local county. But when I'm not doing that, I'm writing about video games. And right now, all of that happens at IGN. So I'm a guides writer there, a commerce writer, which is very behind the scenes, and no one's probably ever going to see any of my commerce pieces. I write news daily there, and I do a bunch of these science coverage. So if you ever see any crazy science stories at IGN, you're like, what? That's not about video games. There's a good chance I helped write that because science is awesome.
What is the craziest story you've written?
Oh, the one I wrote. Let's see. I wrote one recently that was a human could fall through a black hole and survive if it's done very specifically and very correctly. And that was fun because I got to be super existential and put my tagline. I was like, Wesley LeBlanc is a freelance writer who volunteers to fall into the hole. But basically there's a way to do it where it doesn't completely stretch you thin like a spaghetti noodle. You would probably eventually die pretty soon into going into the hole, but you're getting 30 seconds to figure out something that I don't think any person has before.
Would you consider yourself an expert on holes then?
I would. Black holes, holes popping up in the ground, like Donut County maybe.
Ooh, excellent segue to the game that we're playing this week. It is Donut County, developed by Ben Esposito, published by Annapurna Interactive, released initially on August 28th of 2018, available on iOS, macOS, Windows, PS4, Switch, Xbox One, Android, basically everything. We start this show. Did I write it? I did. Okay. We start the show in the same way every single time by giving you a fast pitch about the game that we play, essentially a one-sentence pitch about the game. So we're going to do that now. Who wants to start by giving their one-sentence pitch about Donut County?
I got it. Donut County is a puzzle platform game where you pilot a hole controlled by an a-hole raccoon.
Dang, that was perfect. Spot on.
That's really good.
Yeah, I do my best.
Wesley, why don't you give us yours?
You are in control of a hole, and your one objective is to put as many things as possible into it.
I'm gonna keep it short and say, yo, it's reverse Katamari. And I hope y'all have played Katamari.
That's actually spot on.
Tell me, what is your history with Donut County? Is it the first time you played, second time? What did you know about it? Wesley, I want to give you the floor first.
So Donut County was one of those games. I remember when it came out and everyone was, all over it. It was a big game. One of those indies that kind of stands out and breaks through, the games industry and whatnot. And for some reason, I just didn't play it. I don't remember why. It's a game right up my alley. It has awesome music and great art. It's everything I wanted in indie. But I never played it. And then you hit me up about this, and I was like, this is a perfect opportunity to finally play this game I've been meaning to play. And then I look up the trophy list, and I'm like, I can get the platinum trophy in one playthrough. That's excellent. And sure enough, that's what I did. So I played it pretty recently, and it was my first time, and I really, really loved it.
I
Sounds
love
like
that.
You're a hole expert.
Yes. I've got the platinum hole.
Mike, make us whole and tell us about your experience with Donut County.
Yes. So similar to Wesley, I remember this game getting a ton of attention. I think when it was, part of a game jam and then turned into a full game. I know it's based on a Peter Molyneux quote or tweet, which if any of you are unfamiliar, that is a parody Twitter account that kind of took on a life of its own, parodying Peter Molyneux, the infamous game designer. And I did not play it. This is the first time I played through it. And the thing that pushed me towards it is I was looking at a bunch of stuff on Game Pass and new editions, and I saw it, and I'm like, wow, I've wanted to play this game. It looks super cute. And it's super small install size, and I can play it when none of my friends are online. So grabbed it, convinced Jacob to play it with me, and Wes, thankfully you joined us as well. And yeah, that was my that's what I bring to it.
I played this game, I think essentially when it came out, because I want to say I was at a PAX, and that's when I kind of found out information about it. Don't think I got hands-on, but it might have been there in one of the like indie booths or whatever. And I played it, I think on PS4 when it first came out, and I adored this game. Like, I'm a big Katamari fan, so immediately I was like, oh yeah, Donut County, that's incredibly like my ish. Like, I need to play this. Loved it, and it is so short and so bite-sized that like there are a lot of games where I'm like, I don't want to play this again because I played it, it's 10 hours, whatever. But this game being like a 90-minute game, I was immediately like, I will play that again in a heartbeat. And truly, y'all, I would play this game again. If someone asked me in 5 years from now to play Donut County, I would play it again. And that is a big statement from me because I don't replay stuff. So that's my
agree.
Yeah, that is my experience with Donut County. Wesley, how did you play this one? You said trophy, so I assume PlayStation 4?
Yes, on PlayStation 5 actually, but yeah, PlayStation 4.
Oh, how did it work on PlayStation 5?
Nothing, like, I don't think anything specific to the PS5, and I can't imagine the game had trouble running on a PS4, considering it runs on an iPhone. So, as far as I know, I might as well just played the PS4 version. Yeah, it worked perfectly and flawlessly.
When you bring up that it ran on an iPhone, that was actually the platform that I thought. I think when it came out, I thought it was exclusive to whether it was or not doesn't matter. In my head, it was a mobile game that later came to console and PC, et cetera, et cetera. So I've always associated this as a mobile game and thought it was cool to be able to, I don't know, play it on my Xbox without it feeling like it was shoehorned onto it in any way.
So you played it on your Series X then, Mike?
I did, yes, with a controller.
Cool. And I played it this time on Xbox Series X, but I believe the first time I played it, it was on PlayStation 4. So I've seen it in many forms. We gave our kind of fast pitch on it, but if you had to set up this game and talk more about it in detail, like where would you start? Would it kind of be the gameplay and what you focus on in that respect?
Yeah, I think so. The story is cute and charming, and it does start off really interesting, kind of near the end. But yeah, the gameplay is, I think, the big highlight of this game. It's like one part therapeutic, another part you're a terror at this town, completely just destroying everything in sight. And yeah, it's the gameplay goes. It's weird because it's one very simple mechanic, I guess, but it goes places, and then by the end, it's like, how did we get here in 2 hours? But it's awesome. It works perfectly.
Totally. Yeah, I think this game just hits you with a bunch of style right at the beginning too. Like the intros where they're setting up the characters are just so well done. It has an extremely cinematic vibe to it, and I don't know if you guys picked up on this as well, but it feels like the whole game takes place in LA or just outside of it. Like it feels like it's got that, and maybe that's just in like the aesthetic, like a cartoonish version of it. Maybe it's the later segments where you're stuck in traffic forever. But it just feels very like fun, whimsical LA.
No, that's a perfect way to describe it. And I just want to double down on one thing you said, Wesley, is like this game is incredibly therapeutic in like it is so satisfying this is gonna sound sexually explicit, to just put things in the hole. Like it is so to move around. Like big Katamari Damacy fan. Big Katamari Damacy fan, and if you haven't played Katamari, in that game you control an alien who rolls a ball around, things attached to the ball, gets bigger, you get bigger, and then you continue to move around. This game is the reverse of that, as you are just, instead of putting things on something, you're putting them down a hole, and the hole gets bigger as you put items into it. So you'll start, and like you're putting stones into the hole, and you're putting like little shrubs or little weeds into the hole, and then you're putting lawn chairs, and then humans are going in the hole, or like creatures, anthropomorphic creatures will go in the hole, and then a house will go in the hole, and then more will go in the hole. It's just like so satisfying to see it continue to grow, and levels are diverse. And they usually only take like 90 seconds. They take like 2 to 5 minutes to complete. And this game is not difficult, but like so satisfying to like continue to put things, put things inside of the donuts, and then move through. Because that's the setup, right? Is that like there's a donut delivery app that BK, the main character, is kind of running, but instead of delivering donuts, they deliver holes.
BK the trash panda.
Yes, I remember. The have a garbage day is like the main like catchphrase of the game. I had seen that everywhere, and until I played this game for the first time, I had no idea what it was. I'd seen it everywhere, like in stores, online, and then the game booted up, and I beat the first level. And, it has a little transition scene. It says "Have a garbage day," and I was like, "Oh my goodness, that's this game." And yeah, that's BK being a trash panda, a raccoon. Trash is kind of his thing, and it makes a lot of sense that he is just devouring anything and everything.
I've got to ask, did either of you get Night in the Woods vibes from this game at all? Like a less cosmic horror Night in the Woods vibe?
I haven't actually played Night in the Woods, but as far as like art style and vibe goes, yes. I know I really do need to play that game. It's just the themes I've heard about it. I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready for those themes to hit home yet, so we're gonna wait.
Yeah, I was like, Wesley, do you like depression? You're gonna love Night in the Woods.
Yeah, maybe in a different non-pandemic times.
Yeah, I would say like Night in the Woods is like the perfect like September game. If you want to like, it's getting cooler outside, you're starting to wear sweaters, and like Night in the Woods with a nice cup of tea. Like that is Night in the Woods to me. A very few games like hit an aesthetic. It's like, the indie game a Short Hike. A Short Hike to me is like rainy summer day game. Night in the Woods is like cool sweater weather fall. And Mike, you nailed it. Like Donut County is like summer in LA vibes for sure.
Yeah, everything is very colorful and bright and soft palette cartoony. And it's you just jump from level to level, where each level is I guess the central premise is telling the story of how one of these animal characters anthropomorphic animal characters gets sucked into the hole, which Jacob alluded to this earlier. It's when you realize they ended up ordering a donut, and that just led to the chaos that led to all of this Donut County being destroyed or pulled into the hole. Is it worth, I guess, diving into a little bit of the puzzle element of this game?
Yeah. Lead us through it.
Yeah, so I think what's kind of fun about the gameplay, like this could be, I think, a pretty unchallenging, boring game, considering you're just piloting a hole and trying to get things to fall into it. But I think the thing that makes this a little bit more fun or a little bit more challenging is you load into the level and know, okay, by the end of this level, I need to get everything that's in here into the hole. But your hole is only a certain size, and you can only fit certain things into it. And the way that you end up having to tackle it or approach it is find, okay, what are the smallest things that I can quickly fit in there to expand the size so I can fit larger and larger and larger things in, until you're eventually, half of the level itself, and you're having RVs and big mountain formations, et cetera, falling in and filling up the hole. So I love the way that they did it, and it was really, really fun to see just about everything in the level when you load in be interactable.
Yeah, it's cool too, the way the game kind of like pushes you into the puzzle, because it's very, like we were saying, therapeutic and simple, and you're like, okay, there's a rock there, let me grab that, and the camera's like slowly panning out. Sometimes I was realizing it happening because it does like a big, swoop backwards, and sometimes it's just slowly panning out, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I'm the size of a vehicle now, and I'm dropping trees and massive cliffs into the hole. And yeah, there's usually like one puzzle, I'd say, and each, like one main kind of standout puzzle in each level. The one that comes to mind is, I remember the first time you get big enough to go under a like barbecue pit thing, and a raven or like a crow or some bird throws like a piece of coal down to the ground. If you let that coal fall in, your hole is now like a fiery pit from hell, and you can go around and catch things on fire, which I think is how you get the trees. Funnily enough, there's a trophy for lighting the RV on fire, which you totally don't have to do. It's really messed up to do, but very BK to light the RV on fire before dropping it into the hole. And yeah, it's cool how there's little things like that are just built right into the scenery, that eventually become puzzles.
One of my favorites, or one of my favorite little level things where you have to sequence things into the hole, was setting the hole on fire, I believe, and then getting all the corn into it, and then popcorn starts shooting out. I might have got the sequencing wrong, but it was just such a fun little moment where you see what they're trying to get you to do, and you're like, oh, this is going to be fun. This is going to be really cool. And it pays off. It's everything I wanted it to be.
I think a lot of the like snake tail puzzle where a snake goes inside of your hole and the like tail comes up,
Kinky.
And you use that to kind of knock a sign around to, I don't know if it's collect or do something, but I distinctly remember it's like popcorn, fire, and snake tail, like those. And even like there's one where you get a catapult at one point in the game, and with the catapult you can shoot things that go in the hole back out of the hole. So example, you can shoot a water balloon and make like a puddle, which you can collect and then shoot the water up to do things. You can shoot a frog that you've collected up out of the hole to collect flies, get bigger, and that allows you to get bigger, or like have the frog pull things down that are pretty weighty. So yeah, each level is like like wildly handcrafted. I know that Ben Esposito and the folks that helped on the team like worked on this game for a very long time. I swear it did like the press junket for like 3 years, but I'm incredibly thankful that this game came out. It is just so polished and like doesn't overstay its welcome. We'll talk about it more, but this game is sublime.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. It definitely doesn't take longer than you want it to be. And each level is a little bit more complex and teaches you a little bit more than I think you were expecting you could have with a mechanic of, fill things into the hole. Where I thought it really surprised me is when they start dropping things into the map that you then have to move or rearrange based, using the hole, like setting the fireworks or opening the barn door or things like that. I thought were like incredibly inventive and cool, and to me it's just a sign of, oh, these people have played this game a long time and they have found every possible thing you could do, or as many possible things as you could imagine with the mechanic of things falling into a hole.
And the game's really smart too about everything. Like, it's all natural decisions that you're going to eventually arrive to. If you see okay, there's like a water wheel, well, how do you make a water wheel move? You get some water. Oh, there's a thing over here that's got water in it, and then you just find ways to get the water. It's cool how, and like you said, you can tell they spend a lot of time trying to find ways to make it natural in each level to arrive at the solution or conclusion of the level, I guess. It's very awesome design.
I guess my only complaint in relation to the design was that everything felt a little too obvious. I did not feel challenged by it, and I'm not sure that that's what they were going for, so I don't know if that's a fair criticism. I don't think they were going for challenging per se, but I wish that there was a little bit more effort to figure out how to solve each level. Yeah, just because I felt like I just cruised right through this game. I felt like in a way I sped run it.
correct me if I'm wrong, but the XP you get after each level is like arbitrary, right? It goes up the same amount no matter what you do.
Totally.
Yeah. So, I totally see that complaint because it is very simple. Like I don't think it challenged me. Like there was nothing that really stumped me. But I think for them it probably was intentional, just because there's really no incentive to go faster or do something slower. I mean, beyond like trophies or achievements, really. It's very therapeutic, and I think that the Ben Esposito and the team, strive to make it so. Just in art and story and gameplay and sound, it all comes together to be this like, hey, it's a simple game. We have a fun little 2-hour thing to show you. Check it out. Here's what it is.
Even like the core of it's great, but even some of the stuff on the periphery, like I think the writing was really funny. Like there's some text messages that go back and forth between BK and the human character Mira. And you had the option, like you were the one actually driving the you were hitting the reply button or the quack button, which like in this world, why are there quack buttons on the phone? But sure.
What do they do?
I don't know. Like you had the option to hit reply or quack, and like you could hit quack a bunch of times sometimes, and the other character would quack back at you. So I got a good kick out of it. But even the writing to me was like very funny. There were a few times where I was laughing out loud as like the characters around BK and Mira were essentially calling BK like a destroyer of worlds or like terrible, and he was just like, nah, I'm just doing my thing, guys.
I love him defending himself along the way. It was a great. I guess that was the thing that reminded me the most of Night in the Woods, just the quirky personalities defending and having weird takes on stuff, and that just adding to the flavor of the world.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted that drone. Gotta get to level 11.
Yeah, which he eventually does get in the end. The story, I guess, if we want to dive into it at all, is the panda or the trash pandas, the raccoons. They move in, and very quickly, as each resident in the town orders a donut, BK sends his little hole over and ends up sucking up their whole world. And then you move on to the next one, and the story is being told from inside the hole, trying to figure out how they all got there, what the commonality was, and why BK is an a-hole. So eventually I think they convince him that it was a dick move, and that he should fight against the Trash King. And you end up getting to a 2-stage final boss battle at the LA Griffith Observatory, or a facsimile of it, where you find the king trash panda, the king raccoon, and he's got a crown on his head, and he offers you a contract that you just can't say no to, which is the drone, and et cetera, and you end up having this amazing drone fight with a hole, and it was really fun. It was a cute little way to wrap things up.
And I hate to go back to the writing again, but even the writing in that sequence where he's like, but there's health insurance, that kind of stuff, just it really got me and showed a lot of care around the periphery. Mentioned that, but that last sequence, even before you get to the boss battle, the lab and how it's a multi-hold adventure, I guess, where you're solving different areas of the lab to get to the final boss fight, was a great way to ending games are hard. Final boss battles are hard. This game, I think, is one of the few that I can think of off the top of my head that just really nails it, or at least makes it a low friction experience in the end.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's the and speaking to the writing, like you mentioned, even the camera work is working on the writing. When they're talking down in the hole, they're quickly flashing between the different people talking. It has a very cinematic comedy or indie kind of feel. With a game like this, you wouldn't necessarily think there'd be this story at all, or a great story at that. But they put a lot of care into telling this off-the-wall story that, as you mentioned, eventually goes to the LA Griffith Observatory, and there's a giant tornado, and turns out there's a bunch of raccoons doing all kind of crazy things like this, and then there's a king, trash king, and it's I remember playing it and then getting to the end, and I was like, I do not know how we got here, but I'm so happy to have arrived at the point where I'm fighting a drone with its own bombs. It goes places very quickly. It's awesome.
I've got to ask, what section, not just in the boss fight, but what individual level would you say is your favorite, or the one that stood out the most to you? I'll go first. I'll give you guys some time to think about it. There's two that really stand out to me. One was being stuck in traffic in LA. I just thought that was just too apropos. The second being the abandoned house, where everything is in the dark, and you need to, I think control a flashlight while you're sucking things up, and then stumbling across people who are squatting inside of it. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, the house was going to be one of my answers. And every time you spot somebody, you get scared, I think, or something, and the flashlight dies a little bit, or something happens where you have to wait a little bit for your light to come back. My favorite level would probably be the adventure park or water park. I don't remember what they call it. But just because of the scale of escalation that takes place throughout the entire level, you start as like a little hole, you create a puzzle, you've got this log flume ride going, and then eventually you somehow get this Ferris wheel spinning crazy to where it goes off the rails, and you essentially destroy the entire park. Like destroying Disney World as a raccoon.
Yeah. Didn't BK like Underground be like, all the raccoons are probably at the amusement park, but don't wreck it?
Yeah.
I loved, not to say the same levels that y'all said. I really enjoyed, like I said, the end. I think that endings in games I've said it before, are tough. And usually like when you go to I think of like the Sonic lab battle, like always at the end of a Sonic game, it's like mechanical, it's Robotnik's lair, and it isn't fun, but like they take the laboratory thing and make it a lot of fun. That's when the puzzles get more complex. And like complex in like a kindergarten sense, like, hey, you're a first grader now. This is not a hard game. But I enjoyed the final levels. There's like 4 of them in the final area. One where you have to like make a frog big. One where you like have to move between spotlights to suck up donuts. Like, it's a lot of fun. So we all brought different levels, and there's only like 20 levels in this thing. So that just shows that like each one of them is really, 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 really well crafted.
One of the mechanics, if you want to call it that, we forgot to touch on, that is one of my favorites, is the rabbits. And the fact that like when you have one rabbit and then you drop more rabbits in, and all of a sudden they're multiplying as rabbits do. That was in one of the final levels, I believe, right? I think it's the first room you do in the lab. Whenever I put 2 rabbits in there and then like 10 more come out, I was like, this is incredible. It was
super cute.
It's not what I didn't know I wanted to see that, but the second it happened, I was like, yeah, this is perfect. This is great writing.
That was so cute when you put the rabbits in and the hole just quadruples in size.
Yeah.
I would love to bring up the music because I think that there are a lot of indie games that have like really great soundtracks, and I think of I've mentioned a few, A Short Hike, et cetera, et cetera. Like this game has a great soundtrack. It's by Daniel Costner, and it just like, especially the opening theme, like it just it's such a vibe. Not to like, it's like I'm sitting on my, with my trailer on a lawn chair, like picking away at a ukulele. Like that is the vibe of the soundtrack, and it fits so well. So I wanted to call out the soundtrack, and how if you haven't played Donut County and you want to feel for it, like go on Spotify or whatever music platform you have and check out the original soundtrack, because it's great.
The soundtrack was probably my favorite thing about the game by the time I was done with it, because I remember sitting on the experience screen for like 10 minutes longer than I needed to, because the music there is just so awesome and hype, and it's got such this like it's a very unique sound in games, like you were mentioning. It's like one part like soft ukulele, like sitting in a chair, and then another part almost like arcadey. And it has like a LA vibe, which what does that even mean for music? But it just like it fits so perfectly, and the electronical feel in a lot of the levels, and the way that each level had its own little theme that kind of fit the setting. Very awesome.
Yeah,
Big fan of
and
the music. I've been listening to it since I've beaten the game every day.
I plan to listen to it while I'm working tomorrow now that we mentioned it. But yeah, it just had such a, like, it was cool without even trying to be cool. If that's a good way to describe it.
Yeah.
Ben Esposito is
really
just a guy who I'm
appropriate.
like, you're probably like really cool. Like, we should have a conversation because I bet you're cool.
For sure. Yeah, now he's releasing a first-person anime shooter game. Like,
Yeah.
it's cool.
Explain that, because like that is essentially his second game, right?
Yeah, I forget what's the name of it. It's
I think he was working on Unfinished Swan, wasn't he?
Yes, that was his. I think he was working on that, and then Donut County, his like first indie game, and then I think they just showed his next game on a
I think it
like
was a
Nintendo
Switch
showcase or something.
presentation.
Yeah,
Was it the?
and
I think it was the big one, like the 19 months later one.
yeah, I'll figure that out.
Yeah,
well,
I think it's his second game. Now he's like big enough, thanks to Donut County, and he's kind of like one of those developers that has the name like Donut County by Ben Esposito. This other Nintendo game by Ben Esposito.
Neon White.
But with Unfinished Swan, Neon White, that's what it is. Yeah, that game, in such a very different way from Donut County, bleeds the exact same amount of style and fun and cool. Like you said, Ben Esposito's got to be a cool dude. I mean, he might be awful. I don't think he is. But his games give off the
Let's
vibe
hope
that
he
he's a
isn't.
very, very cool dude. Yeah, right.
Let's hope he doesn't milkshake duck us.
Oh, no.
Do y'all have any points you want to hit on about gameplay, story, graphics, sound? Think we're good? I have some questions if you guys...
Yeah, let's hear him.
Okay, cool. Let me set that up. All right, so I think we've kind of covered the game. It is a shorter one, so a bit of a shorter episode, but I have a few questions from the audience that I want to ask y'all. The first one comes from Twitter. It is from IamLinkHS. They ask, what do you wish you could drop down a hole? It won't be harmed, but it will be conveniently out of your way for a significant amount of time. A very great question that I want your takes on.
There was a period in my life where Jacob was the answer to that. But now, I'm not sure. I'd have to think more deeply on that. I'm not sure what I need to get out of my life, but I want to still remain safe and all of that.
I know what I want to drop in a hole. I just want to drop
Can't
a
say me.
slinky into a hole.
Oh,
Just think about it, like,
Satisfying.
weren't you a kid that like would put or is it just me that would like
the top
put the
of the
slinky
stairs.
down the stairs and just watch it
Yes.
go? Like,
Yep.
I just want to get items like a slinky and just make it go in the hole. Maybe a collection
does it,
of
like,
slinkies.
extend while it's falling, or does it stay as one piece?
I
wanna
don't
see
know.
that now.
I
You're
don't
the
know.
physics guy.
Gosh, what would I want to see down the hole? There's so part of me is like trying to find just some inconvenience I have in life and just drop it down the hole and forget about it. But then another part of me is like trying to figure out what cool thing in my life would make one of the cool puzzles of Donut County. I wish that money worked the same way as the rabbits and I could just drop $1 down the hole and then fill it with hundreds. But I think on any given day, it would probably be... you know what? I want to drop down the hole. Let's find out what happened. I mean, we've seen people survive. We get to survive in this situation. Drop me down. I said earlier, if I want to, go into a black hole, I can do that now, apparently. Let me drop down the Donut County hole, see what happens to me. I'll come back with all the facts.
We'll slingshot you right out. We'll catapult you out.
Perfect, yes.
So Mike, we don't work together anymore, so you can't drop me in the hole, or you shouldn't drop me in the hole because we're friends now. What do you actually want to drop in the hole?
I don't really have. I mean, I hate to just give a non-answer, but I've just got no inconvenience in my life that is material. I've just got spiritual things that I would like to drop in the hole.
Wow, that's existential. Maybe you should go in the hole and explore that. I've got two more questions here. I want to ask the first one, and it comes from Discord. It's from Stephanie K. They ask, sounds very much like how Katamari works. What's similar and different, and does it stand on its own apart from Katamari? I'm a big Katamari fan, by the way. Have you guys played any of the Katamari games?
Briefly.
I have played... Yeah, I don't think I've beaten one. And I played one a long time ago. Was it PS3?
I think that was...
I don't know which one I played there.
was that We Love? Let me get us the chronology here, but I think there was one that was like, obviously Katamari Damacy. There was We Love Katamari, and there was I think one on PS3 and one on PS Vita, and they were all a little bit different. Obviously now they're re-releasing the original on modern platforms, but I played the original, and I think I played the PS2, the follow-up PS2 game. And I would say like those games are very Japanese in style. Like the music is like super J-pop. The aesthetic and the things you're picking up are like incredibly like, well, I mean, it was a Japanese game that almost didn't make its way to the West and kind of got popular by fluke. So I would say like this is a very American game. That is a very Japanese game. And I think that this game is like perfectly polished. There's not a single like dent or like rough edge on it. And Katamari as a game is, even in its modern re-releases, is a little bit rough, even from like a control perspective. Like sometimes you don't have full control over your Katamari. I think that's the point. But the American versus Japanese, this game's smooth as butter, and Katamari maybe not so much.
I think with Donut County too, probably not. I mean, he's clearly inspired by Katamari and whatnot, but by making it a hole that things fall into, I think you avoid some of the clunkiness that comes from the Katamari games, because those you're filling up your screen with this giant ball that has different things that touch different objects on screen differently, whereas a hole, like, it can't really collide or mess up with something. It just drops in, and then if it doesn't drop in, you're like, okay, I'll get bigger, or I'm going to find a way to. I mean, on occasion, did you guys ever have any object where you're like just slightly too small to drop it in, and you're like trying to like rework it so that it flips itself around and finally drops in?
Absolutely.
Even in those moments, I was like, I would think this is frustrating in maybe any other game, but I really enjoy moving the hole to try to flip the RV in such a way that it goes right down. The like you said, it was made in such a way that there's like no clunkiness.
Yeah, and just in case anyone listening has not played one, like it's been on tons of stuff, like the original Katamari Damacy. We Love Katamari also came out on PS2. Me and My Katamari was a PSP game. There was Beautiful Katamari on, and these were all kind of a little bit different as games, same core concept but different. I Love Katamari on iOS, and then Katamari Forever, which is the one you played, Wesley, on PS3.
Okay, that sounds right. Yeah, from what I remember, everyone that told me, whenever I said I didn't finish it, it was like a situation where they're like, oh, you played the wrong one. You need to go back and play this one or this one. And I was like, okay, cool. I didn't know there was one on iOS, though.
Yeah, I think there was more than one, actually. Yeah, I think there might have been, maybe in Japan there was more than one, but there was definitely one on iOS in the North, or in the West. I have one more question. Yeah, I have one more question, and it comes from Discord, and it's from Ludo Narrative FM. They ask, would you consider this the holy grail of indie games? Sorry.
No, that's incredible. How did we not come up with that already?
I don't know.
This entire episode without saying holy grail.
I think we were too focused on not making sexual puns.
Yeah, it's tough. This game, everything is about a hole. It's tough to talk around, but it is.
It's a glorious hole.
Yeah.
God. I don't know if y'all feel this way, but we've said it before on this podcast, like Annapurna, Bangers Only Interactive, like they just don't miss. And if you look at their release history, it's like they release one more game every year. I think this year might be an outlier because they're publishing like 10 different games. But if you look at their release schedule, there's not a single game on there that is trash. Like you could argue that like some games are like Agora Goa is not for everyone, but look at Annapurna's like track record, and every game is a banger. Even the stuff that's weird, like Keita Takahashi's, who's the creator of Katamari, did Watam, which is a bizarre game and not for everyone, but still like a great thing. So yeah, this is among the holiest grail of indie games. As kind of closing thoughts, like I adore this game. I think anyone should play this game. It's on mobile. It would probably play great on mobile. So if you're interested and you haven't played it yet, even if you listen to this podcast, I think there's a lot of joy that you could get from playing, actually like tactically playing this game, that may not be the case for every one of our podcasts. Like sometimes we will play a game and like it gets ruined when you listen to the podcast. But on this one, if you hear it and you're interested, like please, it's cheap. It's on every platform. Dive in head first. Dive in hole first.
It's free on Game Pass. the whimsy, the experience of it is I think just about everything. Like we can tell you how cute it is, but it's different than experiencing how cute and fun and witty it is. I similarly would recommend it to just about anyone. And I had, just like a really fun, enjoyable time with it, and it didn't overstay its welcome, and it was exactly what I needed in that moment.
Yeah, I'd basically echo everything you guys said. I think this is a game that anyone can play, and I would try to get anybody to play it because it's got elements that are therapeutic. It's got awesome sound. It's got a great story. It comes together for a full package. I remember playing it, and my wife was sitting next to me. She hasn't really played too many games, just kind of like the Marios and whatnot. And like 10 minutes into the game, I noticed she had like peeped her head up from her Switch, and she just started watching. And then like 20 minutes later, she was like, "What's this game called?" And then I look over, and she's looking on the eShop to try to find it. And I was like, "That's a good game. That means it's a good game. If 30 minutes and she's ready to buy it herself, like that's a good game." And like it's 2-3 hours max. If you're someone who's like wants a platinum trophy or 1,000 gamer score for it, that's also 2 to 3 hours max. It's free on Game Pass. I got it on PlayStation for $4. It's a game I see often on sale, and even full price. I think it's like $13 nowadays. Yeah, it's 100%. I would have given this game a lot more money than $4. Now having played it.
Yeah, this is like, I try to avoid physical games, as you see this pile of physical games in the back. But like Donut County, if there was ever a like limited run games on this, and there might have been in the past. I know Annapurna did this collection on PS4 with like physical copies of all their first 7 games. I would love a physical copy of this game. Like it is one that I would love to pass around, tell everyone to play. And even though they had at one point they had an issue with a game called what was it called? Hole.io. Like there was someone who copied their game concept-wise and put it out before Donut County came out. And even though they had that struggle, I think they still made this a very successful game. So I'm happy that Ben Esposito and team made it. I'm happy that the 3 of us got to talk about it. And there you go. Wesley.
One quick note. You mentioned the physical edition. I would love to see what someone like Limited Run or even Annapurna does for like a single physical edition, because they always include really cool little like trinkets and stuff. I imagine this game, like you get the box, you get like a map of the county maybe, and then there's like a box and it's just empty, and it's like, this is a hole or something like that. I would love to see what they would do to give you a collector's edition hole to keep mounted in your office or something. It'd be awesome.
The have a garbage day like typography reminds me a lot of like the really old school like grocery bags you would get. Like it has that same vibe. Yes. So like I'd want like a have a garbage day grocery bag to put just throw my disc in. So
that'd be incredible. They just give you a bag of trash. They're like, here you go.
Like plush trash inside of your special edition. I love it. That is the end of our Donut County episode. Wesley, I wanted to say thank you so much for coming on the show today. We are very happy to have you. If folks want to find your work on the internet, where can they do so?
So the best place to keep track of everything I do would be at LeBlanc Wes. LeBlancWes on Twitter, and I basically tweet out all my stories, all the guides I'm working on, everything I write gets a tweet, and that's the quickest way to keep up with me. If you are regularly on IGN reading or using guides, there's a good chance my name will be in the byline. I do quite a lot of work for them. And yeah, I also, give me a follow on Twitter. I'll follow you back, and if you want to see me tweet about video games and mostly that. Pictures of my dogs, those are cool. I got you.
What is the wildest guide that you've worked on? Difficult,
oh my gosh,
tactical, strange, like tell me.
The biggest guide I've worked on, like just the widest spanning guide of my life, and I don't know if it's ever going to beat, I hope I don't ever beat it, would be Assassin's Creed Valhalla last year. I took that guide because I love Assassin's Creed, and I was like, okay, I know these games are bigger, and the press or Ubisoft was saying it's not as big as this Odyssey, and I'm like, okay, that's perfect. I'll definitely guide this. 97 hours to get through just the story. My job was the walkthrough. It took me, I'd say, 80 hours of actually playing if you take away like the time I'm riding in between steps and stuff. That game's too big. I wrote 100 30,000 words for it, 300 different individual pages. It was a beast of a guide. And we had we eventually had 5 other people working on the guide because I was just doing the walkthrough and it took me that long. Someone had to go and do all the treasures you can find. I eventually signed up to do all the side quests, which was like another 40 hours. That game, you remember how Assassin's Creed had fatigue and then everyone was like, go away? I'm ready for the new style of Assassin's Creed to go away. I want to return to like just the single city games. Every game keeps getting bigger, and writing those guides is just awful. But and that wasn't really challenging though, because it's Assassin's Creed. It's pretty straightforward. You just kind of, play the game and kill people. The most challenging game, gosh, I'm trying to think. I actually just did one recently for an indie game called Blue Fire, which is really great. It's on Switch and PC. I would get it on PC if you can, because it doesn't run super great on Switch. But it was a very small game. It didn't get much coverage at all, and it's extremely difficult. It's like Celeste in a 3D space. And so anytime you have to guide a platformer, it's difficult. One, because you have to somehow walk forward, jump this way, do a spin or something interesting. But man, that game kicked my butt. And there's nothing worse than being the guide writer on a challenging game, because you're, when you are struggling in a game, what do? You look up a guide, and now all of a sudden you're that person. And you're
on deadline too, I'm sure.
Yeah, deadline. You're just like, okay, I'm going to stay up till 2 a.m. beating my head against the wall trying to solve this one puzzle over and over. But I do it. I love writing guides. It's fun to help people. If my guides ever help you, I'm satisfied.
Yeah, so do us a favor. After listening to this podcast, go look at the Assassin's Creed Valhalla guide on IGN. Go look at the Blue Fire guide on IGN and give Wesley a follow. LeBlanc Wes on Twitter. LeBlancWes. Wes, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me. This was awesome.
You can find all things Left Behind Game Club at leftbehindgame.club, on Twitter at Left Behind Club, and on Instagram at Left Behind Game Club. If you like conversations about video games with cool people, you can check out our Discord. The link to that is at leftbehindgame.club/Discord. You can find me on the internet at Jacob McCord on all major social media platforms. I'm on Twitter. I'm on TikTok. And I also host another podcast called Cutscenes. It is a video game movie podcast. We just wrapped up season 2. We have watched movies like the Resident Evil franchise. We've watched through the entire first season of The Witcher. If you like video games and you like movies, it's probably a show for you. Cutscenes.ca and on all major podcasting platforms.
If I could plug, I forgot my own 2 podcasts that I do.
Yeah, please.
So I have one called NPC Tonight, which is the most, it's me and 2 local friends here, and obviously we're recording virtually right now, but it's the most laid back games podcast ever. We have an agenda with news and stuff, but if we get stuck on one news item for 50 minutes and then we're like, okay, we're good, it's that. If you just want to listen to 3 people talk about video games as best friends, there's that. And if you're someone who really likes Dragon Ball Z, I have a YouTube show called Dragon Ball Speak that I record with my roommate, and I've never watched Dragon Ball Z. It's his favorite show of all time. He's obsessed with it. He tried to get me to watch it for years, and I was like, if I'm gonna watch it, we're gonna make content out of it. And so the pitch of the show is we watch 3 episodes a week and we review them, and he reviews it through the lens of someone who's obsessed with the show, and I review it someone who's watching it for the first time 30 years after it aired. And I think it's really great.
Mo is gonna love that.
Yeah, he's hyping up things. He knows what's coming, and I'm like, this was awful. Or the vice versa happens. He hates an episode, and I'm like, this is the best episode yet. So yeah, if you want to see me watch Dragon Ball Z for the first time, Dragon Ball Speak. We have a Twitter, which is Dragon Ball Speak as well, and we do podcasts on Spotify and all that kind of stuff, and you can find all my podcasts on Spotify, but the Dragon Ball Z show is definitely best on YouTube. I try to do some fun editing there.
I love it. Quick question. Which version of Dragon Ball are you watching?
So this was he tried really hard to get me to watch Kai, but I was like, if I'm watching for the first time, I want the filler. I want to experience what everyone experienced, so that I can be in on the jokes. 3 episodes of charging up a spirit bomb. Exactly. Oh my God. Don't even get me started on the entire name. Sorry. Good God. Yeah. Oh shoot, I lost my train of thought. What did you just ask?
Sorry, I asked which version.
Oh, the version
You
we
said you want to watch
Yeah.
the original. You want all the filler. You want to know what
Yes.
everyone else experienced.
Yes, yeah, my bad. Yes, we're watching the original version. I think it's the American music, though. Bruce Falconer, I think is his name, his music. We watched Japanese for a while before we switched over to American, and it's hilarious how the Japanese music, it's mostly the same every episode, but it's this very upbeat, happy, like, and the narrator's like, Krillin is dead. Everyone's dead. And then you switch to the American version, and the music's like more fitting for the tone. Yeah, it totally changes the show when the narrator's not happily talking about how everyone's dead.
When there are stakes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it. You can find me on most social places online at RuffaloM or michaelruffalo.com or .ca, whichever you prefer. But more importantly, you can find me in the Discord, hanging out with a bunch of really great people. And sooner than later, watching Wes's Dragon Ball show in the YouTube comments. So, yeah. Keep your eyes peeled.
Michael, you are here, so please end the show in that oh-so-special way you do.
And that, my friends, is one less game left behind.